Years after the state confiscated his warehouse, this Rhode Island cannabis grower is getting back. Almost 7 years after police raided his Putnam Pike marijuana grow, and the state swooped in to confiscate his warehouse and everything inside it, including 15 5-gallon buckets. Joseph Ritchie is getting it all back in a protracted case in which the former licensed marijuana grower contends the police lied about having a confidential informant to gain a search warrant, and then last year destroyed some seized marijuana that could have supported his defense. The state has agreed to settle the property confiscation aspect of the lawsuit. Ricky's separate federal lawsuit alleging the police search was illegal and a violation of his constitutional rights remains pending in U.S. District Court. No culpability or liability for either party in Settlement A provision in the property settlement agreement stipulates, in quotes, "This is a compromise reached by the parties of this dispute claim or this claim only, and no inference to either party's culpability or liability may be drawn from this compromise in any way or for any purpose," end quote. The agreement is signed by Assistant Attorney General Linda L. Barr and Ritchie's lawyer Megan E. Sheehan. Both Sheehan and Ricky declined comment on the settlement, as did the Office of the Attorney General Peter Naroa. In earlier court documents, Sheehan described Ricky as a contractor and a licensed medical marijuana patient who served as a caregiver for 2 other patients. He grew marijuana at his warehouse at 256 Putnam Pike, where he also ran his business, Custom Construction LLC. In September 2017, Ricky's complaint says the Smithfield police received an unverified tip from a first-time confidential informant that Ricky was selling marijuana out of his grow. On October 23, 2017, police raided the warehouse, seizing 42 marijuana plants, individual bags of marijuana weighing over 1 kilogram, and all the equipment Ricky used to run his contracting business. The police charged Ricky with a possession with intent to deliver and possession of 1 to 5 kilograms of marijuana. The drug charges were eventually dismissed. Back in May of 2019, Ricky pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge for visiting a common nuisance. And last year, Ricky told the Journal in an interview that he pleaded to the misdemeanor charge because he wanted to put the episode behind him. He received a filing, meaning his record would be expunged if he remained law-abiding for a year, but by then the state attorney general's office had already moved to seize his property through civil forfeiture, contending it had been used to violate state drug laws. Alleged lies about a confidential informant. Ricky's current lawyer, Sheehan, has argued in federal court that his arrest, the raid, and the confiscation of his property were all illegal because police lied about having a confidential informant that supported the request for a search warrant. U.S. District Judge Mary S. McElroy wrote in a pretrial ruling last summer that there was, in quotes, strong interference supporting Sheehan's claim. She noted that when placed under oath, police officer Joseph M. Marsalo denied having any personal contact with an informant, despite saying in his affidavit for the search warrant that he had received information from such person. In a quote, "What adds to the strength of the inference of fabrication, however," wrote McElroy, "is the failure of the Smithfield police to find any written documentation in the form of any notations or file entries or other memorialization that anyone in the department had contact with the putative informant." Evidence destroyed in the case. That's right. In February of this year, Sheehan leveled another allegation against the Smithfield Police Department that as late as last year, it had destroyed some of the marijuana they had confiscated from Ricky's warehouse and were holding as evidence as he challenged their allegation. He was growing more than allowed as his medical patient and caregiver's allotments. There is, in quotes, "There is no reason the evidence should have been destroyed 6 years into a pending civil forfeiture case and 3 years into a pending case, when at the heart of both the town and state's arguments are the destroyed evidence proved that Mr. Ricky was over the possession limits, Sheehan continued. In an email exchange last August with Sheehan that is included in court documents, lawyer Ryan D. Stays, representing Smithfield, acknowledged that some of the held marijuana had been destroyed. In a quote, "It is my understanding," wrote Stiles, "that the marijuana has been destroyed and it was subject to a criminal prosecution in which your client pled and the case has been closed out." Stiles did not immediately return an email or phone call at his office seeking comment for this story, you guys. Well, I guess it sounds like you guys get to chalk it up one for the good guys today in regards with this story, and I can't wait to hear what all of y'all have to say about this.
Well, as we talked about in my story, part of this got settled. I don't know that it's off the books, but I'm sure there's non-disclosures in there. There was no admission of liability. That seems to have been for some of the real property. They threatened to go after asset forfeiture of property here. I'm hoping that got settled. But the other issue about what happens when they seize your weed and they give it back to you in 7 years and it's trash. What happened to that? Well, they destroyed some of it. Well, after 6 months or a year, it ain't worth the shit anyway. So you get damages for that. And if no one admits they're liable, I suspect someone will try to resolve this, although I'd like to see some of these get a ruling of what obligations you have when you take property like that that could spoil or decompose.
You know what I wonder?
While you're holding it.
You know what I really wonder, Dale? If this evidence that was disposed of, if it was disposed of around the holiday season, and I wonder if it just contributed to some people's holiday parties.
Well, invading an evidence room and stealing drugs is not a brand new concept.
Just saying.
Oh, I don't know. And that's the problem with the chain of evidence here. And the focus has always been on, we're going to throw you in jail and you do everything you can to stay out of jail. But then they go after your assets. And that's a excessive fine under the Eighth Amendment argument that for weed that was arguably lawful, would they take your whole warehouse worth millions of bucks? I think that's a problem under the excessive fine section. But what's the value of personal property they take that spoils and gets ruined? That still is an ongoing question. I'd like to see someone make a determination of what obligations a governmental entity has when they take something like this and set on it for 6 years and here, give you back a bag of shit that you can't do anything with anyway.
Yep, I heard that. Any thoughts on this, Stone, fashionista?
I think it's interesting that cannabis is probably one of the only things of value that they can seize that has a shelf life, right? Because everything else wouldn't, the timeline wouldn't matter, like
if they seize a bunch of bricks of cocaine, that's going to stay good for a while, a lot longer shelf life.
So
you would hope.
Any thoughts, Stone?
Anytime we can chalk up one for the good guys, I'm on board. Let's be happy.
Right. I thought we started off with a good story. We end on a good story for you guys. It's Thursday. It's almost Friday.